Hey, welcome back, guys. Appreciate you coming back. Week 2 here. Going to jump right into our classroom session. Today, we're going to talk about coverage shells. We're going to look at cover 2 and cover 3. Talk about the alignment differences in the secondary and what you need to do to be able to recognize those differences and how that helps you make a determination pre-snap. It's going to lead to the coverages that we're going to get into in detail here over the next coming weeks. So get this shared here. All right, go back. So here we'll go back one slide. Okay, so classroom number 2, looking at coverage shells. When we talk about the shell, we're talking about the structure of the defensive alignment in the secondary. So imagine you've got, you got that turtle, all the contents inside the shell there. We want to know what is the shape of that shell. That's going to help us determine what we expect to see from the defense. It tells us what they can do, where they can go, some different things for us to expect as quarterbacks. So as a quick review, last week we talked about offensive, defensive personnel. Remember, offensive personnel, we're going to use a 2-number system. First number for the running back, second number for the tight ends. Defense is going to be the same setup in that it's a 2-number system. First number will tell you the number of D linemen. Second number is going to tell you the number of linebackers. All right, we don't worry about the secondary players from there because there's 11 guys on the field. If we tell you it's a 4-2, you shouldn't need that third number to tell you it's a 4-2-5, right? 4 plus 2 is 6. You always subtract that from 11. That tells you how many secondary players are on the field. So we know 4-3 and 3-4 are the same. There would be 4 secondary players on the field. Okay, we talked about field zones last week. Shouldn't have to do much of a review on that, but this is where it's going to be important for us to understand. Go back a slide here. You can see, based on how the defense is aligned, what areas of the field they're going to be vulnerable in. All right, they don't have anybody deep in the fade zone. They have nobody in the go zone. All right, you can see even though they have a player in the flat, technically they have a flat player down at the bottom. As we go over here, there's nobody out here aligned, so he's going to have to cover some distance, meaning that he's going to have to open his hips, be able to cover some ground in order to work out to those areas of the field. All right, quick review, flat, fade, and go on the outside. In between the numbers and the hash, you got your curl and your seam zone. I remember the high school hashes are going to be a lot wider, so that is going to work basically from the inside of the numbers all the way to the tackle box. You can see on the diagram here, we've got it drawn to the tackle box. In between the tackle box, our hook, our middle of the field, and then our deep middle in there. All right, coverage types. What are the different types of coverages that we can see? Well, the first one we're going to talk about, and this would be what we'll primarily discuss this week and next week, zone coverage. So when we're talking zone coverage, we're talking rules and responsibilities based primarily on the field zones. All right, minimal changes based on the formation and motion from the offense. So the defenders have a zone they're responsible for or multiple zones they're responsible for, and there isn't a whole lot of change. Hey, there's always some form of deep help in zone coverage. So no matter how many guys they have underneath, if they have 2 under, if they have 5 under, there's always going to be some kind of deep help over the top. Could be 1 safety, could be 3 deep, could be 4 deep. Just depends on what coverage they're playing. Things we want to know is that they are susceptible, the defense is susceptible to being overloaded by the offense, and they're susceptible to over-covering an area of the field, right? Well, you see a lot, you'll hear defensive coaches yelling at practice, don't cover grass. They don't want their defensive players covering grass. They want them moving, right? They want them finding places where the offense is located. All right, they don't want guys standing around covering nobody. So what I mean by that is they can over-cover an area where we're not running any routes. That's one of the kind of downfalls of playing bad zone defense. Okay, your different types of zone that we'll talk about are 2, 3, 4, and 6. This mostly means how many players are deep. So if we're talking cover 2, there's going to be 2 deep players, and we'll talk about that shell today. Cover 3 is going to be 3 deep players. Cover 4, you have 4 deep players available. Cover 6 is also going to, we're going to call it a hybrid. Cover 6 is a combination of 2 different coverages, combination of cover 4 and cover 2. All right, your man is the other coverage type, the other primary coverage, rules and responsibilities based primarily on opponent's personnel and alignment. So now they're going to line up based on what personnel you have. They're going to change their alignment based on your formation, based on your splits, and they will try to match what the offense is doing. Okay, this requires a large amount of preparation and communication because there's a lot of switching, a lot of different things the offense can do with their motion that changes the responsibilities of the defenders. So it takes a lot of preparation and communication, but it allows the defense to cover every player in theory with minimal wasted bodies, right? They can put a man on a man. They have somebody for each offensive player, and they don't need to waste any bodies like they might do in zone coverage. We're looking primarily at 0 and 1. Those are your man coverages. We're talking true man. Cover 1 is what you're going to see probably more often, unless you're getting like a full 6-7 player rush where they're going to send the house and just play 0 behind it and say, hey, we're going to send more than you can block. Okay, the last one are hybrid coverages. Hybrid provides increased help in the pass game. It allows, you can cover every player, but also keep deep help available. So hybrid is going to have man and zone principles in it. So they're playing man and zone at the same time. But it can be exploited in the run game because of this, because they're going to try to keep guys deep and still play man-to-man underneath. So you can create some issues in the run game with the fits, running players off underneath that can cause the defense problems. That's why they don't, things like 2-man are a very specialized situation. Cover 4 can be a hybrid. We'll get into more of that. 4 solo, a very common one you'll see in high school, and then cover 6. All right, but we're going to primarily talk about the shells and the shape of the coverage here today. So as we look at this, imagine we're going to take this pen here, right, and I'm going to trace over top of the secondary players. Should see this line start to cover across the top here. See how it should show. Oh, give me a second. So as I draw this, good. Now we'll start to see what we call the shell of the defense, right? You can see how that resembles that turtle shell. This is also going to be known as middle field open. We're going to put M, F, and O, middle field open, right? There is no defender, no safety deep in the middle of the field. This is something as a quarterback you need to recognize, and you really should be identifying verbally at the line of scrimmage with your receivers every play. It's important that you and the receivers are on the same page. If you are running a complex offense with a system that is designed to kind of morph and adapt to attack the defense, you should have routes that have sight adjustments like this, so that you're not just going to run, your H on a go route right at the safety. You may have something that adjusts where he's going to run either a slot fade, a corner, or a post route to attack that open space on the field. So this again this is a 2-high shell, 2 safeties, 1 and 2, the free and the strong. The corners are low, and now it's called middle field open. Again, if we put this on the field zone chart, we would understand here that the defense is weak in the middle of the field. They're weak on the outside deep, right? And those are the areas we want to look to exploit. You notice that the will is inside the box to the weak side. The Sam is outside the box, so that gives you a nice little window if you're running a curl, a slant, trying to get the running back out of the backfield. You might be able to gain some leverage there. To the strong side, you've got a Sam linebacker sitting right in your curl zone. Not that you can't attack that, but you have to know ahead of time you need to move that guy out of the zone, whether it's with routes or with your eyes. Okay, here's a good example of how I like to draw the cards up when we're looking at, where are the holes in the defense? Where can we find the biggest voids? You want to attack space. You want to attack space. So we know pre-snap, based on our route combination, all right, that weak side fade is open. That corner doesn't bail, or I don't see that safety get off the hash, and we're running a vertical outside. I'm drilling that ball in. Now I go into the play with a plan of attack. Now I know, okay, this is a coverage. If nothing changes, right? If they just stay in their assignments, I know where I'm attacking the defense. I know where I'm going with the football pre-snap. That's part of getting your pre-snap read and why it's so important. You want a plan of attack going into the play. You don't want to wait until it's snapped and then decide what you're going to do. We want to, what I tell guys is, you're taking snapshots, pre-snap, right? Imagine photographs, and you're locking that in. You know where everyone's at based on their alignment, their depth, their eyes. And then once the play starts, now it's more like a movie. It's more like a motion picture. you're adapting to what you see happening in real time. Okay, example of a cover 2 shell here. You can see corners on the outside. We call this outside leverage. We're talking about leverage is where are they compared to the man they're defending. He is on an outside shoulder of that man, meaning that he's probably trying to force everything back in. We'll get more into the details of cover 2 next week. We see the safeties playing near the hash. One indicator of cover 2, those safeties are going to play somewhere near that hash, whether it's on the hash, typically 2 yards inside or outside, and they're going to be a little deeper, probably 10 to 12 yards because they are now responsible for the deep half of the field. But again, you see a huge space open here in the middle of the field. You see that void on the outside in the fade zone and on the go. Something for us to understand, identify pre-snap. Okay, again, space here means middle field open. MFO. You have to understand that at all times. Next one. Okay, cover 3 is going to change things a little bit, a little different formation, so the defense adjusts with it. Now you can see this shell is going to be shaped a little bit differently here. It's not a very good drawing of it, but you get the idea. We've got a safety in the middle of the field, so now we call this MFC. MFC, middle field closed. Middle field closed. That means now you have a defender lined up in the middle of the field. So that area between the hashes is now covered, but the area that's not covered ends up being now that seam on both sides. Forgive me that, we're drawing this with a mouse, but you get the idea. There is no defender lined up in the seam. Let's go to the next slide. Now we see where the voids are, the openings. Because it's cover 3, we'll talk next week, but corners are typically going to be softer because they have a deep third now. So it opens up our flat on each side. You can see the blue circles in the flat, right? Nobody there. Now the linebacker is going to have to push out, which is going to open up some space between the 2 linebackers on both sides. Okay, flat on both sides and then seam on both sides. Notice we didn't draw a circle, even though it looks like space here. We know this corner in cover 3 is going to be dropping back into that deep third. He's softer in coverage in his alignment, playing probably 6, 7, 8 yards. When his job is not to get beat over the top of himself. Okay, visual of it. You get a good visual here. It's 4-3 defense. We got a safety rolled down. You can see this guy rolled down. So now he's going to be, forgive me, I'm drawing on the wrong screen. Okay, but that safety is now going to be in position where he can rob that curl, rob that flat, changes how we want to attack the defense, right? This guy is, instead of being back in his 2 deep alignment, now he's worked down into that underneath zone. Okay, you can see corners could be outside, could be inside, but they're going to look to bail a little bit deeper than they were in cover 2. Okay, another shot of it, just a different personnel, right? Different shot on the field. You can see corners looking inside, great indicator of zone coverage. He's not staring at his receiver. This corner down here at the bottom of the screen has started to bail. And this safety deep, 5, 10, 15 yards, right? You'd tell because we're counting the lines. He's 15 yards deep, smack in the middle of the field. That guy's playing some sort of one high shell, whether it's cover 1 or cover 3. Right? We look for the indicators everywhere else. In the defense underneath, now a little bit different. You got 5 linebackers and safeties, right? 5 underneath defenders in zone coverage. Even though they're kind of packed in here in a stacked defense, it's going to add another defender underneath, take away some of the underneath zones, or allow them to bring a fourth or fifth rusher, which is going to happen most of the time as well. Okay, this is a cover 4 look here, but you can see as I go to the next screen, identify quickly. Middle field open. We'll talk more about cover 4 principles and defenses, but I want to know right away, what area of the field are we trying to attack? If I need to check out of a run play, where do I want to attack in the pass game? I want to have that decision made right now, immediately. I know where I'm going based on our personnel. I know what I'm checking into because I understand what the weaknesses of the defense are. I understand the areas of the field that we're looking to attack. Last visual of that you can see in this Patriots film, right? Pretty clear shot, middle field open. Even though this guy, this safety down here to the boundary, strong safeties, we got a tight end here. Even though he's rolled down, playing a little tighter at 10, and the boundary safety is playing about 15, their depths are different, but he's not in a position where he's rotated to the middle of the field. So even though they have a different depth, it's still middle of the field open. Okay, you can still get the same sort of look from the corner, you see looking inside, playing some sort of zone coverage because of their posture, their alignment, their eyes. Pretty easy to recognize. One more here, the little high school shot. You can see the same thing. MFO here, MFO, right? Middle field open, easy to identify. We got an understanding of where we want to attack right now. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing that. Like I said, I'm not gonna do a ton today. Want to get into those shells so we can start to identify when we get into our concepts this weekend. We're gonna talk through how we attack those different shells with our quick game and with our double moves that we're gonna install this week, and then we'll move on to our drop back series from there. So by now, you guys should have a good understanding of our shells. You should be able to identify based on the shell where the defense is weak. And this is important. You may not know exactly what coverage they're playing. You may not know if it's 2 or 4 or 6. You might have a hard time identifying that. But you know based on where they're aligned, where that defense is weak, and where you should be going with the ball because of that. You should be able to understand and identify offensive and defensive personnel, know the box count, and in your formations, know how many defenders do they need to have in the box in order to have us outnumbered. All right, that's it, guys. Any questions, posted in the comments box underneath. Bring it to training on Sunday. Anything you guys want to know or want to get some more information on, bring it out. Happy to go through it with you guys. Appreciate you. Keep working hard. Get a great first week. Looking forward to get out on the field this week and challenge you a little bit more. All right. This is Coach Denryter signing off. I'll see you guys this weekend. TDQB quarterback receiver camp.